Margaret Hayes stood at her kitchen window, her hands trembling as she watched the silver Mercedes pull up to her gate. After 30 days of silence, her son Daniel had finally come home. She was 72 years old, with silver hair she wore in a neat bun and eyes that had seen both joy and sorrow. Her late husband Robert had left her comfortable, with a beautiful home in Connecticut and enough savings to live with dignity. But comfort meant nothing when your only child turned his back on you. It had started a month ago. On a Tuesday morning she would never forget. Daniel had arrived with his wife, Patricia. Margaret had never warmed to Patricia, though she'd tried. There was something cold in the younger woman's eyes, something calculating. But Daniel loved her, and that was enough for Margaret to keep her doubts to herself. They'd sat in her living room, and Daniel had done something unthinkable. He'd taken control of her bank accounts, all of them, her pension, her savings, everything Robert had worked 40 years to build. "It's for your own good, Mom," Daniel had said, avoiding her eyes. "You're getting older. You shouldn't have to worry about managing money." Patricia had smiled, a thin smile that never reached her eyes. Margaret had felt her world crumble. "Daniel, please. That money is my security, my independence. We'll take care of you," he'd said. But his voice was hollow. Then came the demand that broke her heart. "We need you to sign over the house too. We'll let you stay here, of course, but it makes sense legally." When Margaret refused, Daniel's face had hardened. He'd looked at Patricia, and something passed between them. "Then I suppose we have nothing more to discuss," he'd said coldly. They'd walked out, leaving Margaret standing in her doorway, watching them drive away in that silver Mercedes Daniel had bought just weeks before. For 30 days, Margaret had lived in a fog of grief. She'd called Daniel 17 times. Each call went to voicemail. She'd texted, sent emails, even written a letter. Nothing. It was as if she'd ceased to exist. Her neighbor, Helen, had brought her soup. "He'll come around," Helen had said gently. "He's your son." But Margaret wasn't sure anymore. She'd raised Daniel alone after Robert died when the boy was only 12. She'd worked 2 jobs to put him through college. She'd been there for every milestone, every heartbreak, every triumph. And now she was nothing to him. On the 28th day, Margaret had made a decision. She'd called her lawyer, Thomas, an old friend of Robert's. "I want to change everything," she'd told him. "Every account Daniel has access to, I want frozen. I want it all transferred to a trust. And I want to make sure he never sees a penny of what Robert left behind." Thomas had been quiet for a moment. "Margaret, are you certain?" "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." She'd also done something else. She'd called her nephew, James, her sister's son who lived in California. James had always been kind to her, visiting when he could, calling regularly. She'd barely seen Daniel in recent years, even before this betrayal. "I'm changing my will," she'd told James. "You and your sister Emily will inherit everything. The house, the savings, all of it." "Aunt Margaret, what happened?" James had asked, his voice filled with concern. She'd told him everything, her voice breaking only once. Now, watching that silver Mercedes idle outside her gate, Margaret felt something she hadn't expected. Not anger, not anymore. Just a deep, profound sadness. Daniel got out of the car slowly. He was 38, tall like his father had been, with dark hair starting to gray at the temples. But it was his face that stopped her heart. He looked broken. His shoulders were slumped, and even from this distance, she could see his hands shaking. Patricia wasn't with him. Margaret walked to her front door and opened it. She didn't step outside. She waited. Daniel walked up the path, and as he came closer, she saw tears streaming down his face. His legs were unsteady, and he nearly stumbled on the front step. "Mom," he whispered, and his voice cracked. "Mom, I'm so sorry." Margaret stood silent, her arms crossed, protecting the heart he'd broken. "I was so stupid," he continued, his words tumbling out between sobs. "Patricia convinced me that you were going to leave everything to charity. She said we needed to secure our future, that you were being manipulated by someone. I believed her. God help me. I believed her." He fell to his knees on her doorstep. "She left me, Mom." took half of everything and filed for divorce. Said she'd only married me for the money she thought we'd get from you. She's with someone else now, someone she was seeing the whole time. Margaret felt a flicker of the old maternal instinct, the urge to comfort her child, but she held firm. You cut me off, she said quietly. For 30 days, you let me suffer. You took my independence, my security, my dignity, and then you abandoned me. I know. Daniel sobbed. I know, and I hate myself for it. I've been sitting in my car for an hour, trying to find the courage to face you. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve anything from you. Margaret looked at her son, really looked at him. She saw the boy who used to bring her dandelions from the yard, the teenager who'd held her hand at Robert's funeral, the young man who'd promised to always take care of her. But she also saw the man who'd betrayed her. The accounts are frozen, she said. And they're going to stay that way. I've set up a trust. You won't have access to anything. Daniel nodded, still on his knees. I understand. I deserve that. I've changed my will too. James and Emily will inherit everything. His face crumpled, but he nodded again. They should. They've been better family to you than I have. Margaret felt tears in her own eyes now. You broke my heart, Daniel. You made me question everything I thought I knew about you, about us, about the life your father and I built. I know, Mom. I know. They stood there in silence, mother and son, separated by 3 feet and a chasm of pain. Finally, Margaret spoke again. I loved you more than anything in this world. I gave you everything I had to give, and you threw it away for money that wasn't even yours yet. I'm so sorry, Daniel whispered again. Margaret took a deep breath. I forgive you, she said, and watched his head snap up in surprise. But forgiveness doesn't mean things go back to the way they were. Trust has to be rebuilt, brick by brick. And that might take years, Daniel. It might take the rest of my life. I'll spend every day trying, he said, standing up slowly. If you'll let me. Margaret nodded. We'll see. But it starts with you leaving now. I need time. And you need to figure out who you were without Patricia, and without my money clouding your vision. Daniel wiped his eyes. Can I call you? In a few days? You can call, Margaret said. Whether I answer depends on whether you're calling because you want your mother, or because you want something from her. He flinched at that but nodded. I understand. As he walked back to his car, Margaret called out, Daniel? He turned, hope flickering in his eyes. Your father would be ashamed of what you did, she said gently. But he'd also be proud that you had the courage to come here today and face it. Daniel's face crumpled again, and he nodded, unable to speak. Margaret watched the silver Mercedes drive away, and for the first time in 30 days, she felt something like peace. She'd stood her ground, she'd protected herself, and she'd left the door open, just a crack, for redemption. That evening, she called James. He came by today, she told her nephew. How are you feeling? James asked. Tired, Margaret admitted, but stronger than I expected. The will stays the same, James. You and Emily have earned it through your kindness. If Daniel wants to be part of my life again, he'll have to earn that too. But my money won't be the reason he does it. You're an amazing woman, Aunt Margaret, James said softly. After they hung up, Margaret made herself a cup of tea and sat in Robert's old chair. She thought about love and betrayal, about forgiveness and consequences, about the long road ahead. Her son had learned that kindness repaid with cruelty has a cost. Now, he would have to learn whether love could survive that cost. Only time would tell.